Okay, today we will have a look at the pump performance curves, and we'll explain like a different performance curves of the pump and how they are related. Okay, how do we analyze the performance curve? They are analyzed independently of the rest of the hydraulic system and then as a part of the system. Now, the both set of data is recorded and is valuable to the designer. Why do we need to find the pump performance curve? To give us an indication of its capabilities, its performance, based on the rotational speed, the internal geometry, the cost factors, and etc. It's also determined the pump's compatibility, system compatibility as well. Now, in the first case, the designer may observe performance curve to see if a specific pump has a pressure and specific pressure and volume flow rate to operate in a given set of actuators. In the second instant, the system designer may be computing the noise. He wants to find out if the pump is too loud, too less, too quiet, vibration, cavitation, and different flow characteristics. And then after installation, he wants to determine if the pump and the existing system, they are working perfectly together or not. So they are compatible or not. Okay, if now both the first scenario and the second scenario, they are complementary to each other. In practice, much of the hands-on work is completed independently. Pump performance characteristics are interpreted from the data in a tabular form, and then we graph these curves. Hence, we call it performance curve. Now, this is figure 1.2. There are multiple 1.2a, then there is a b, and then there is a c. So there are three set of figures on the next page. Okay, this is a typical positive displacement pump. On the y-axis, you have a flow in LPM. On the x-axis, you have an RPM. Now, it's give you an idea about what happened to the flow in LPM and the speed. And if you have a look on this axis, this is one vertical axis on the left. This is vertical axis on the right. On the right vertical axis, you can actually see the power input in kilowatts. Now, it represents the positive displacement pump, and it represents the relation between the input power and the output flow of a variable displacement pump as a function of the pump speed, Now, if you see the relationship is linear between the discharge flow and the pump speed. So if I have a look at discharge flow and the pump speed, it is linear. Now, if we have a look at the second figure, this figure gives you a relation between the speed on the x-axis and the efficiency on the y-axis. We can find out the maximum efficiency, where the maximum efficiency is kind of here and the maximum efficiency is kind of here. So we can actually see the maximum efficiency for a pump. And if we have a look at the figure C, that's give you on the y-axis, we got the flow, different flow. And on the x-axis, we got a discharge. Now, it can kind of give you an idea about the flow rate and the discharge characteristics. So these are the three performance curves that we need to have a look. Now, if we have a look at the other characteristic, which is a pump noise, it's an important parameter used to determine the performance. Any increase in the noise dictates or explains if there is any wear and tear, if any failure of the pump, or any loss of energy. Pumps are good generator, but they are poor radiator of noise. Noise is not just the sound coming directly from the pump, but also from the vibration and the fluid pulsation, which is produced by the pump. Pumps are small in size and they are the poor radiator of noises, but they can create noise. Reservoir, electric motors, piping being large in size are better radiators. Hence, pump-induced vibration, which can cause an audible noise greater than the coming from the pump. So pump can generate the noise, which mean like maybe there might be a pump down there, it making the water pulsate, which will result in the whole system making some noise. Like pump is down there on the ground floor and you are having a noise in the radiator on the second floor. Fixed generator pumps are less noisy than the variable displacement pumps because of the way they are constructed. Now, pump noise. Now, if you have a look at this one, this is pump noise characteristics. On the y-axis, there are different operating parameters such as pressure, displacement, and speed. And on the y-axis is the sound intensity. Now, you can see like as you increase the speed, the sound intensity increase. And it's quite a steep curve. As you increase the pressure, the sound intensity increase, but the curve is not as steep. If you are looking at the displacement, how much fluid you are displacing, now as you increase the amount of the fluid that you're displacing, the volumetric flow rate, the sound intensity increases. But the speed is the one, the curve is quite steep, so that little bit increase in speed will give you quite a high value of the increase in the intensity. Okay. Now we got the pump cavitation. Now when we have a look at the positive displacement pumps, vacuum is created at the inlet of the pump. Because of this vacuum, atmospheric pressure is allowed to push into the fluid. In some situations, the vacuum may become excessive, and that's known as cavitation. If the pressure of the liquid reaches a low level, it vaporizes or it boils. Cavitation is the form of oil vapor bubbles due to a very low pressure, high vacuum on the other side. What does it mean is because if you got a water and you put the water in the vacuum chamber, the water will start to boil. And it's still at 5 degree, 10 degree, 12 degree, but it will boil. What does boiling mean? Boiling means the water will convert from liquid to a gas. That process is known as boiling. At high pressure, the boiling point of the water increase. The reason is because when there is a water, imagine this, there is a water here and you are heating the water. The water bubble tried to escape, but because on the top there is a very high pressure, atmospheric pressure, or maybe you're applying the pressure, the boiling point increase. But if you get rid of this pressure, which is 1 atmosphere, if you reduce this pressure, the water will boil at 20 degrees, maybe less temperature. Water can boil at 1, 2, 3 degrees centigrade. It will boil because there is no atmospheric pressure. Okay. The low pressure also causes air, which is dissolved in the oil to come out, because it's just exactly like fizzy water, like soda water. As soon as you open the lid, you will see the bubbles that were not there will try to come from the bottom all the way to the surface, and they will form bubble. These air and water bubbles collapse when they reach the outlet side, which is under high pressure. The collapsing of these bubbles causes high localized pressure, because when they collapse, they create a very high localized pressure and the fluid velocity. These pressures are so high, they cause pitting of the metal, and decrease the life of the and the efficiency of the pipe. Now the pitting is, if this is the surface, let's imagine this is that thick. If this is the surface, the pitting will occur. Let me change the color. So it's eating away. They form the tiny pits, eating away of the metal, and that's known as pitting. And it's all caused by cavitation. So if the fluid is going that way, the air bubbles comes and they cause cavitation, which result in pitting. Now factors causing cavitation: undersized plumbing, clogging line, suction filter, high fluid viscosity, too much elevation head. You are trying to raise it at very high between the reservoir and the pump inlet, and that will cause the cavitation. How do we get rid of cavitation? We keep the suction line velocity below 1.2 meters per second. Keep the pump inlet line as short as possible. Maximize the number of fitting in the inlets. Mount the pump as close as possible to the reservoir, so the distance is decreased. Use low pressure drop inlet filters. So we have to use low pressure drop inlet filters. Use proper oils as recommended by the pump manufacturer, because every oil has its characteristics, how much air it can absorb at different temperature and different pressure. Now we will do one numerical question. The question is about calculating the bore, a pipe bore required for the suction and the pressure line of a pump delivering 40 liters per minute using a maximum flow velocity in the suction line of 1.2 meters per second and maximum flow velocity in the pipe line of 3.5. So we need to find the bore. Okay, let's have a look at the solution. Now, let's say we got a flow. Flow is the average velocity multiplied by the flow area. So if I want to find the area of the pipe, the formula is flow through the pipe divided by the velocity of the flow. Flow is 40 LPM, 40 liters per minute. I can convert that into liters per second by dividing by 60. So I'm just converting here. Now that's liters per minute, per second, sorry. Now instead of liters, I want to convert that into meters cubed per second because it's a water. So I need to divide it by another 1000 or multiply by 10 to the minus 3. And that will give me the LP liters per minute, converts the liters per minute into meters cubed per second. Then I put the value there in this formula. That value goes in that formula. And then I got the velocity of the flow. The velocity of the flow, which is given as 1.2 meters per second. So that's the velocity there. I put that one, and I will get an area. I will get the area of the pipe. Once I got the area of the pipe, I use the formula pi d square over 4. Area of the pipe is here. I can find the diameter. I can rearrange the formula and I can find the diameter. So once we got the value of the diameter, the answer will be in meters. Once you got that value, now again, we need to actually have a look at, obviously, if you want that bore might not be available. 26.6 millimeter, that's a diameter. So that might not be available. Maybe you get 30 or maybe you got 20. Now, what we do is, in this case, we just have a look at the table. There is a table which I will show you later. And in the table, we look at what is the velocity, what is the next pipe diameter. Now, in this case, the next one is 15 millimeter. That's a radius, by the way, yeah, which is given by 15 millimeter, and we choose that pipe. Sorry, the other was the diameter, not the radius. Sorry, the one I said 15. Now here we just use the flow velocities, flow through the pipe, area of the pipe. I put the value there, and I just find the area of the bore pipe. And then I use this one to find